Hi again. This is Ove. I'm now going to try and judge the color section of your images. Hopefully this will work because I can't now see what I'm recording, but here we go. So I'm starting with the canoeist. Great shot, beautiful position. Love the white water in the background. Um, would have enjoyed a little bit more contact. Oh, wait, I should have started with, I'm going to critique every image as I go through it because I found that the most practical way to do it. And then I'm going to mark them after, or I'm going to mark them as we go through it. And the ones that I'm, in a traditional way of using Dicentra, the ones I'm going to hold back, I'm going to then give a score after the event. I hope that's okay with you guys. Um, this one, I liked it a lot, especially the white water. There's a fair amount of detail. Could probably have done with a little bit more sharpness, through, the depth of field into the background. But it's a strong image. I gave this one 16 points. Love the sweep of this one. um, going, following the river or canal. I think it's a river actually. Doesn't matter. Following it through, sweeping through, and I think it's great. You put the horizon straight at the middle of the image. Um, breaking the rules a little bit. I'm, probably not fussed either way because you got the lead-in sweep with the river there. So, I do like it a lot. Details as you go through the progressions, probably missing a little bit. Especially once you get into the far side and forgive me here, the author, do I believe that sky doesn't matter, whether you've imposed, put it back in after the event, but it does look somewhat artificial. So it's either the processing you've done to the sky or the way that you've blended it in if you have superimposed something else. So it doesn't quite work for me. And then I'm being hypercritical now, but sort of dropping down. Oh, use the cursor because you can't see me pointing, can you? Dropping down here, the shadows are, somewhat too dark for my liking. Um, this one got 14. I hope you didn't record the fact that I've got a new job offer, but there we go. Next. Like this one. Well, I like context. I like the rural setting, and back to your roots and all the rest of it. The two Shire horses are magnificent specimens. Um, and this is one where I would have wanted much, much more sharpness to it. I like I like the scene, I like the idea, and I totally like everything that this represents. But I needed, for me as a judge, I wanted a little bit more in terms of technical execution of the shot itself. And I'm sure you would have taken several shots and could you have the horses more aligned and that sort of thing. But overall, it is the technical quality of the shot that let this one down a little bit to my liking. So this one gets 15. Dragon. And yeah, tongue sticking out. there's a lot going for this shot. Travel photography, I do enjoy a lot. I'm going to stare at the camera just briefly to pretend I'm engaging with you, but I'm kind of looking at the full size image on my other screen here. Liking the engagement, almost the shadow inside here is clearly difficult to deal with. Fill in flash would that have helped? And one of my favorite remarks: go back and take it again. Oh no, you can't. Right? Okay. Could you do something with the highlights here? The white cloth in the background and whatever he's using to hold his drumstick. Um, um, could you tone that down a little bit and then bring some more of the color out? That would be my suggestion. So, great shot. Sequence-wise, could you have engaged more with the artist here? I don't know. 14 points. Like the reflection, like the idea of bringing all these, almost autumnal, probably winter colors out. Frost on the trees. Being a Norwegian, a spruce with frost on it is always bringing me back home. Great shot. Like the coloration. I love the way that you've kind of positioned. Use the cursor, not the hand. Wait. Oh, okay. You position the horizon, as it were, slightly below the middle, which then brings out the sky. Obviously, a very diffused day. Quite liked it. I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to kind of hold this one. Yeah, that worked. Cool. Pigeon. One eye open. Interesting angle. Can't quite get the story. I'm assuming that this bird is completely at rest, taking a breather, as it were, and keeping it calm. Photographer here has done very, very well to contain all the highlights and bring out the details in the feathers. So I think this was a great effort, and I'm going to give this one 17. Take your pick. Decisions. If as a heterosexual, can I get away with this? I'll try. As a heterosexual male, I would prefer on a beach in France for everybody to pick the outfit on the left. Okay, let's not go there. Like the way that you've controlled the colors, you bring out different kind of patterns. Everything is kind of polka dot, but with different sizes and different ideas to the design of the 3 dresses that are on display. I don't know how you did the lighting. It looks like it's lit from the left. No, it's not. 2 of them are lit from the left and 1 from the right. So possibly an on-camera flash then. I would have gone for a scissors shot because the shadows are quite harsh here, especially the red dress on the right-hand side and then the mannequin on the left-hand side. You got some sort of quite harsh shadows creeping in. And despite my earlier remark, do you actually need that mannequin on the left? Could you have moved ever so slightly to the left and put your model, mannequin in the middle of the two dresses that are hanging up, and then, like I said, a scissor shot might have done it a little bit more justice. But did like it quite a lot. 16 points. Nova Scotia, Canada. I can't believe how much that looks like my um, where I came from originally in Norway. We wouldn't have the green paint, but then definitely the blue and the red. Um, I like the composition here. I like the sky. I do like where you have positioned the wooden bolts down on the left-hand corner, and it kind of brings you into the image. And then the very, very bright colors of the timber work of this little hamlet on the shore of Canada. So, I did like it an awful lot. I think it's strong. I like the way that it's some of them. Can I see this properly? Yeah, I do. I do like the way that you've captured everything here and how it's boarded up, and it is a very, very strong image. So I gave this one to 17. Wow, what an impact. Following, purely geometrical. And then following it all the way through. Love the way that we got a skyscraper and that we can see through the skylight at the top here. Cutoff point would be very, very difficult to judge, I'm sure, but the impact of this one is fabulous. You know, hypercritical. Can you follow my mouse here? But there are some. I don't know if this is dirt in the fabric of the building itself or whether this is on your lens, but it wouldn't be a hard thing to do to get rid of those in the digital world, whatever software you use to manipulate your images. I'm kind of taking it for granted that you do manipulate your images because the whole submission has been made at 1600 by 1200. So, tidy up these little bits here, and it would be a fabulous image. Sorry, stumble over my word there, and I'm not going to re-record it, so my apologies. Tidy up those things a little bit, and I might even have increased the contrast a little bit on this one. But fabulous image, holding it. um, oh, too distracting is ultimately my conclusion here. I had so many funny remarks about this, but I'm going to shy away from them. But so we got bloke listening to his music here in the background. And we got the photographer taking a photo of the model. And then God knows what these two are taking photos of in the background. And I'm kind of struggling to build the whole story together here in terms of what it is. So if you wanted the photographer taking a photo of the street artist, concentrate on that. I shouldn't. I suggest that you could possibly have gotten rid of this bloke here and these two here. I don't know how busy this place was and whether you had the chance to wait until the scene was clear, or otherwise, clone it out or do something to it. And then it's one or two other things, that then distracts me. A couple of highlights here in the background that are, take your eye away, and then ultimately what is this stripe down the middle here. So sorry, didn't work for me. 13. Loving the reflection here. What did I do? Okay, so I am going to hold it, and I'm pointing to my screen again. So let's use the mouse here. Greens are a bit oversaturated over here, but that is hard to work out because I wanted the greens in the hill on the far side to be brought out a little bit more. Could you do something with the clouds here? Because you do have some texture in the sky. Could you bring that out a little bit more? That would enhance it for me. And then I wanted a little bit more detail in the shadows down here. I love the reflection. I think you positioned that perfectly, and everything in the bottom half of the image is great and has all the detail that I wanted it to. I just wanted a little bit more crispness on the top side here, and then perhaps tone down the greens over here on the left hand side. But great image holding it. uh, Colors, definitely colors. Too much highlight, especially in the reflection of the umbrellas that are hung up here. Yeah, probably the first 2/3 of it is kind of glaring at me, and it's a little bit too strong. And um, because of the way you sent me the images, I can see it. You got the f7.1, and you're shooting at 1/800th of a second. You could stop it down a lot, bring out some more detail, even a neutral density filter. It doesn't look like it's taken in this country, so my favorite remark: go back and take it again. Not even a snigger. Oh, it wouldn't be, would it? Because I'm just recording this. So, over here, details in the buildings, bring out some more. Do you have the raw file? Tone it down a bit, you know, try and bring some more detail into it. So a fairly harsh 12, this one. Love the composition of this one. Details are great. No, sorry, start again. Love the composition and love the way that you come in over the bridge into the village, and then race it into the tower itself. I also love the way that we have is it a weir? I don't know. What we call this, but it kind of drifts down here. It follows lines of the cut grass here, and everything brings you into the image, and then you got an interesting sky too. So that's all great. Composition is fantastic. It is the technical execution of this particular image that lets it down a little bit, to my mind. It's not sharp enough, and you got blown out highlights a little bit here on the bridge itself, and especially as you come up here onto the whitewashed walls of the building in the village itself. But to what you've seen here and the way you've composed it is fantastic. So technical execution not quite there. Image and presentation fantastic. 17 points. Lavender, purple, my color. Like it. Love it a lot. Like the leading lines. Gonna digress ever so slightly. Anybody a fan of Frank Herbert, science fiction writer, and ultimately a couple of movies was made from his Dune series. So these are the worms. Oh no, okay. Look it up if you bother. Highlights are too strong. Going down, especially down the two central paths here, they are too strong, and then the little house hut down at the bottom. There is no way you could do anything about this fence here. It's it's a fence. It's offensive. Harsh. Sorry. Hard to do something about. But I would definitely try and tone down the highlights. Other than that, I think the lines that bring you into this and where you positioned it, could you straighten it a bit? Maybe you took the shot straight, and that's just the nature of the terrain there. But it does look a little bit awkward, so I would have tilted it slightly. Can you see this? I would have tilted it slightly this sort of way. But then the main thing that took it out of the top is the burnt out highlights. So 16 points. Jellyfish, you wouldn't want to swim into this, would you? Like the composition, maybe a little bit tight on the left-hand side here. The colors are great. And the blue colors, fantastic. And then the way that you brought out the really poisonous looking strands from these jellyfish as they are contracting and swimming upwards as it appears in this image is great. Like the way that you got presumably the trails of another jellyfish in the background here. What took this one right out of the top is one bottom left-hand corner here. You don't have those kind of white bits down on in the corner of the image, easily gotten rid of, and it is distracting. And then this thing, and I can't work out what it is, but it does. Ultimately, I'm judging the image, and it does take away from the image. But other than that, the way that you manage the colors and the contrast between the blue and the reds is very, very well done. Okay, 14 and a half. I was hovering. So there we go. Tuna. Dangerous for judges to assume things. Now I can speak the language, can speak a couple of languages, and I can probably get away with translating this one. So angles here, not quite. So why is the red tuna white and the white tuna red? Okay, lighting. So you get my drift here. Control the lighting. You're in the market, I'm assuming, and you've done well to capture it. My joke here, of course, is that you've engaged with your model very, very well because you got perfect eye contact. Okay, no snigger again. There we go. Like the idea, I do a lot of market photography myself when I'm traveling, and the clutter in the background is perfectly fine because it sets the scene, it creates the environment, and that's all great. I think you could have possibly controlled the lighting a little bit better, and the composition too. You got these bright yellow price tags. Okay, could do something with that. But bottom right here, we've got presumably the red tuna. That is creeping in there, and it kind of grabs your eye. So not quite there, but do like the idea and go for it again. And once the travel ban is lifted, of course, we can all go shopping in a French market again. Fantastic. 14 points. More brollies. I like these, and I especially like the way that the shadows of the handles are cast onto some of the some of the brollies being backlit by the sky. Great idea. Love the colors, fantastic. You had no control over this, of course. So you have this band of green brollies cutting across just below the center of the image. Um, and I would have liked those to be, slightly different colors. But I do love the quirkiness of the can you see this? The fact that you've left this space here, on the third, on the top right. Fantastic. I'm gonna hold this one. Um, More lavender harvested now. Like the context of this one. Leading lines are fantastic. Love the purple. I would have wanted the purple back in here, but this is what you're telling a story. This is when it's been harvested, and the hills in the background, the granite hills, wonderfully textured. Love the way that from left to right it kind of builds up a bit, and then the sky there. Could you? Could you have brought out a little bit more drama in the sky? Um, Hard to do. I think you have a pretty defined edge of the hills there that you could select, so it might be possible to bring out some more drama in that sky. But it's a great shot. Holding it. Um, where are we going here? Tilted. So straighten it up a little bit. Um, Straighten up the ruins. Maybe because, excuse me, and I'm not going to re-record. Um, the walls, both sides are kind of falling away. Um, right hand to the right, left hand to the left. So use a tilting tool in your software to straighten it up a bit. Um, Drama of the Sky is fabulous. Tells a little bit of a lie in terms of what you got in the foreground, but it may be that the storm has just passed, and that's the story you're telling. Great shot. Love the detail in the ruin itself. The colors that you brought out of it. Just straighten it up a little bit. And oh, in Norway we call it a dog biscuit. This Wait, don't point. So this little plant here, bottom right. I love the way that you've put that into that corner there and brought it out. So this one gets 17 points. Dramatic. The light that comes through this opening and the crevice and the detail that it brings out is stunning. Love the layers that brings out in. It can't be limestone, can it? Um, my geology isn't strong enough to critique, comment on that. But I do love the way that we got sedimentary layers that is being brought up through here, and the way that you compose this photo to bring it out from the top left and down into here. A little bit of highlights over here, and then you got your fellow expeditionist there. Could we have engaged with a little bit more with him or her? Get that person to look at the camera, maybe put him or her in a more dominant position in the frame, and then I'm assuming that this is just the coloration because of the artificial light that you had to have in the cave there. So great composition, great story, 17 points. Rainbow, how topical. Right now, it's of course the symbol of the nation coming together and fighting off this um, devastation that we're suffering right now. A full arch, fantastic. Blowing out a little bit over on the left-hand side. Um, Harsh criticism, I know, because this is very, very difficult to capture, and you've done really, really well. Again, you're allowing me to see some of your camera settings, and I would have been tempted to, I don't know if you have it, if this was on a tripod or not, I would have been tempted to um, stop it down an awful lot more so that we get the whole image into focus. The beach is not in focus, the lead-in lines. By the way, that's a great composition. The way that you bringing, I'm pointing at the screen again, the way that you're bringing these leading lines into the center of the arc here is great. You got a, tiny, can we, oh, oh, that didn't work. So you got a ship out there. So I kind of wanted the whole image to be sharp from front to back. The grass is kind of sharp, but by the time we get to the beach, it's not quite there. 16 points. Interesting composition, this one. Very, very selective. You've picked out the buildings that you wanted to show. You got, hey, the more I look at this, I kind of see more of it. So you got some very, very interesting architecture here at the front. I'm assuming a seafront because it looks like this is tidal growth that kind of survives there. And then you got a farmhouse here in the background, and then we start looking at the power lines here in the background, and the whole thing builds up, and it builds up into a story, which I do like. Composition is great as well. I think the way that you put this front line here, and then have the building there, and then you recede into the background, and you have the hills there, and it comes up out into a great sky as well, with some texture and detail to it, which is great. Is this I can see why you wanted to include this as a sort of foreground measure here. Is it a little bit too dominating? I have no idea what you took the photo from, where you took the photo. Um, Could you have gotten a little bit higher up and got a slightly different perspective that didn't make this foreground feature quite as dominant? And then also, I feel that the lighting hasn't been completely controlled here. The highlights are a bit too dominant. I kind of took the liberty of looking at the histogram, and some of the whites are too harsh, and you've gone into complete whites. Great work though. 16. who doesn't love a sunset? Love the purples, love the pinks, the way that he brought it out, and then the way that the sky brings you in here. And again, I'm waving my arms around rather than the mouse. So the way that everything here is being brought in um, into the center here, and you got the golden sunset itself, which is fantastic. So I'm gonna hold this one. Love the line of the boats, the way that they kind of bring it into the reflection here of the sunset in the lake. Great shot. Temperature immersion, fantastic. Always love that one. Go away. The way that you've got the floodplains here, the water in it, in the fields, slightly frosty by the looks of things, could be, might not be. You certainly created that impression. I haven't held this one because I think the hill in the recession as you move forward here, we can just make it out. You got a ridge here, you got a ridge here, and then obviously the top one. And then the sky itself doesn't have any kind of drama in it, but you could have compensated for that, I feel, if you'd brought out some more detail in the recessions of the layers of the hill that come out there. And simple enough, I think, whatever software you use to manipulate the images, because all you needed to do was lift the shadows. 13, I'm afraid. Ah, okay, there we go. So I should probably go back one to double check, but yeah, I'm happy with that. Splash photography. I don't know if you have any kind of automated trigger. Ultimately, the way I do it is multi-shoot and just keep firing and come back with about 300 images, and 2 of them will be okay. Lighting here is fabulous, well controlled. The splash itself and all the reflections that come out of that is brilliant, and the shape of the pepper as it hits the water is great too. I'm going to hold that one. Arch Bridge. Can you believe that we used to walk over these things without any fear? I wonder how they don't collapse. Detail here is wonderful in the bridge itself and the water as it's flowing towards us. No, away from us. Too much green in the foreground, perhaps. I would have, if it was me, but I said, like I said in my intro, it's always subjective. I would have stepped over to the photographer's right and forward and concentrated on the bridge itself and not include quite as much of the foreground there. Misty day, of course. So, composition is okay. You're bringing out something in the background there. Is there more above there to have a look at? As it is, I gave this one 15 points. Purples, flock of crows, I assume. Could be anything, could be seagulls, I guess, or up in the top left-hand corner. And you got your mute swan foraging. by the looks of things, down in the bottom here. Weeping willows, and the hint of and the hint of architecture in the background there that are nicely diffused. I think the composition worked, very, very well here, and I think you've used the depth of field to good effect, to highlight the scene and create what is a very, very pleasant image. Not quite there in the top. You're facing some stiff competition tonight. Um, it's morning here, my time. Well. So almost, but not quite. 17 points. Record shot. Going down, focusing on the full aisle, as it were, towards the altar, with the stained glass at the bottom, and capturing the chandelier. As a record shot, it is very, very well rendered. The detail is great, front to back. Time of day that you've taken it, I don't know if you have access or could choose an ever so slightly different time of day, because some of the reflections, especially down here in the floor, are quite harsh. And I would have, because the light is shining through the stained glass window, I would have loved to see those colors reflected in the shiny floor there at the bottom. It's possible to do. Done it a couple of times myself. So definitely choose your time of day to do it. You've worked on this, I feel. Definitely brought out a lot of detail in the chandelier up here, and the colors in the roof space, and the details in the granite walls here are great. Boom. And because I got the time, I'm going to pick on this light here, which is kind of dominating. Walk over there and just tilt the shade a little bit so it doesn't intrude quite as much. So 15 points. Righty. Love the sky, love the detail, love the shape of the hills. U-barrel, wherever that is. I want to go there. The colors are wonderful, and the way that you bring it out, you brought it out, these miniature little peninsulas as they kind of creep out here, probably carved out by icebergs many years ago, millions of years ago probably. Again, like a lot of the landscapes that I've seen tonight, I wanted some more details in the shadow area. I assume that you're wanting to create the contrast and create the drama, but the way that I'm looking at this, I wanted to see a little bit more detail over here and in this valley over here. And do we need this car here? That's up to you. I would have gotten rid of it myself. 16. A Norwegian pine in the background. Pendle Moor, I assume. You're going to have to forgive me on this one because I do not see the story that you're trying to tell me here. The flag I can probably just about make out, and I assume it's the Union Jack. In the bits of it that I can see kind of look like that. Whoever the pole carrier is, is obscured. I wanted to, I, I'm assuming that this is some sort of event, so I wanted to engage with that person and see uh, what his looks like a he, um, given the haircut, but we don't see much of the model there. I wanted to see what this event was about. As it is, I've got a fragment of the Union Jack. I've got a soldier, I guess, partially emerging, um, behind the flag, and then I've got a very, very diffused background, out of focus background on Pendle Hill. Harsh, 12. Still life, like this one. Um, uh, so the rows there, angle is good, composition is good. You could play around with getting a slightly higher view, if you like, so you kind of look into the bloom of the flower itself. But that is probably quite harsh and critical. The other thing that I would do here, and this is a matter of taste, of course, get your watering can out and spray it and have droplets on the leaves here and on the petals itself. I feel that might have enhanced the image ever so slightly. But even so, I'm going to hold this one. So quirky, so entertaining, loved it. And the way that you caught it with the backlight, um, you got what's it called? Bouquets. Yeah, yeah. The autofocus highlights. I'm assuming morning frost on the grass in the background. Because they are well controlled and quite diffused there. It's not dominating, and then the backlit frozen wool on this barbed wire. Caught on barbed wire is fantastic. I love the shape of it. He's just such a creative image. Well done. I'm gonna hold it. Has somebody else got a Pluto trigger? Okay, mine's going to be delivered in about 3 or 4 weeks. We'll see. But judges shouldn't assume. Love the way that you've obviously captured the moment here and frozen it totally. Yeah, out of the way. Totally frozen it. The way that the colors are being brought up from the pool itself and back up through the spike, and then ultimately the single water droplet hovering in midair there. So great shot. Obviously, very, very interesting to experiment with all of these things. So I'm going to give this one a 17. The Owl. Snow Moon Festival. Giving me a clue here, and it doesn't really, really matter where it is. The branches of the tree all silhouetted with the floodlit castle in the background there. Great. And but obviously the dominating feature is the owl bearing down on us. Oh, where to go with this one? I think it's a fantastic capture of a piece of art. Um, could you do more with it technically? Possibly. I don't mind the silhouetted cliff edge in the background because you're bringing it out with the floodlit building, and the silhouetted tree gives you the notion of nighttime, which is great. You've clipped the wings off the owl, which kind of ruins it a little bit for me. Possibly a harsh comment, that one. And then also I wanted to have the owl in focus. This thing isn't moving, I'm assuming, unlike live owls. So you could have possibly use the tripod and stop down your aperture and bring the whole owl into focus. And then to clip the wings, I don't know what else is there, so maybe you didn't have a choice on that one, but to clip the wings hasn't worked for me. So do love the image. 15. Dinner time. Okay. All we need is some rosemary and garlic to roast the potatoes, and we're cruising, right? Cool. Like the way that it's building up. Love the love the drama in the sky itself. And you got your shooter there being very, very focused, and taking care of things. The way that you brought the valley or positioned the little valley there and positioned your shooter into that one, and bringing out the detail. You got another shooter 50 yards further on by the looks of things. So yeah, great recording of an event. I don't know if you could get away with doing this. I would have gotten rid of this electricity pole on the top right here, especially, or if you're going to keep it in, because you're using, I'm assuming, a fairly wide angle lens. I would, if you're going to keep the pole in, you need to kind of straighten it, straighten the image, drag it over here, and keep everything straight. So a couple of niggly little things, but the image itself is great. I'm going to give this one 16. And then we got the reward, I guess, from the previous image. And definitely going to be on the dinner table at some point. There's an awful lot of defense in this image. Did you need all of that? I would have been tempted to use much more of a sort of letterbox format here, because you got the drama in the sky there that you could possibly have brought out a little bit more. The dog and its prey, fantastic shot. Don't need to do much more about it, but because there are one or two distractions, you kind of start looking at it in a little bit more detail. And you got the wire here, and you could easily get rid of that one to not be quite so distractive. So harsh 14. Where are we going now? Final one. Clitheroe police station. Did he just get out? Oh, don't even speculate. Street, street gymnastics. I think it's got a better word for it than that, but this is great. Riding the, riding the rail there. With his blades, great. would have been even more impressive if he'd rode the rail on the other side, but that could be quite tight. Expression on your model's face is wonderful. It would have been ideal if you'd actually got him to look at you, but doing some of this stuff myself, you're kind of concentrating on the stunt that you're doing, and he's doing a left-hand grab. Yeah, I think it's called Japan, that one, but I could be wrong. The Japan would possibly be crossing over the grab. Bringing out the focus and making your street artist stand out is very, very good. 17 points. Righty. So here we go. So I've held a few images here. I'm going to remind myself of the rules. Okay, so here we go. I've critiqued them all, so I'm just going to dish out some marks here. I like the coloring here. This one is going to get 18 points. And we got the dresses. Again, I talked about it. Maybe an ever so slightly different angle would have enhanced it a bit. So you're kind of looking into the corner and focus on the mannequin with the black polka dot on white. Centered, and the two other dresses hung up, and ignore the mannequin. Maybe not. So this is another 18. We got the harvested lavender fields that kind of drifts into the background. Like it, love the lines. So this one is another 18. The frozen sheep wool. Again, I've already critiqued it, like the idea. So that's another 18 for me. And then we go to the rose, which, think about the angle. Could you have, seen into the head of the flower, and then ultimately, bring your water bottle out and frost it a bit? That would have been great. 18 again. And we got our lovely sunset here on the beach with the boats. It's another 18 for me. And this is where I now get to do my hard work. So this landscape here, bring the shadows out a bit, and how hard is this? Bring out the greens in the far hill and tone down the greens in the foreground. Probably an impossible ask. Where am I going? I'm going to go 18 and a half with this one. So I think that gives me my short list. The station, take away dust marks or dirt in the sky there. Love it. I think it's great. And the impact is phenomenal. So this one gets a 19, and it's my third place. The Brollies, this love it. I no idea how this worked out, and the only kind of distracting thing for me is that line of green across the middle, but love the quirkiness of the shadows and the little bit of blank space that you left up there in the top right. 19 and a half and second place. So here we go. Wonderfully timed, and the lighting is just so perfectly controlled on this one. Um, Shape is beautiful. Over hyper total critical. Wanted a little bit more space below the pepper, but that is harsh. 20 and first place.